You can feel it before you even are fully awake. It is another morning coming. The depression and doldrum is creeping in as your mind becomes more alert to the surroundings. Your corporate approved comlink is beeping its alarm that it is time for you to get up. You roll yourself out of your corporate approved bed into your corporate approved shower and bathroom, brushing your tusks with your corporate approved toothpaste, eating your corporate approved soy food dispensing flavors, going to work at about noon or so, work the second shift, which means you're working from noon to about 11 p.m. Your job isn't anything of significant note. There's some janitorial stuff to do, a little bit of maintenance work to do. Mostly you are ignored for the 17, 18 years you've been alive. It's not that big of a deal as an orc. You're known to grow to adulthood sooner than other races. Come back home to your corporate mandated apartment, watch your little bit of corporate TV before crawling back into your corporate bed and going back to sleep again the next day, where you will once again feel the depression begin to roll into you as your mind becomes more aware of what is going on and getting into actual wakefulness, going into your corporate approved bath, corporate approved toothpaste, using your corporate provided soy dispenser to have your corporate approved meal intake for the morning before you go to your corporate job, or you begin your day performing your maintenance starting at 12 o'clock. Working second shift means you should be leaving here about 11. But tonight is slightly different. The facility is just more empty than previous. And now Steve, the new guy that was working security, is running down the hallway at you. And there are a couple of other the security folks. There's Ed, Bob, Maria. They're kind of yelling and screaming about stop, halt, that kind of thing. Throughout one of the side doors, another form is bursted out. He grabs you from behind, aims a Ares Predator 5 over your shoulder, begins to shoot at Bob, Ed, and Maria. Steve runs by you, tells him, "Come on, let's go." And as the form that has grabbed you looks back over its shoulder towards where Steve just ran off to, you can get the whiff of breath as he says, "I'll be right there." Uh, Dried blood and decay coming out of his mouth. What happens next is slightly more surprising as Maria shoots you right through the chest, right into the guy that is behind. Feel him pull you backwards, slack onto the ground, and feel a pain and burning in your chest that you don't want to feel again. Then the slow, cold darkness begins to grab you. You can feel it again, a different than what you felt before, but as you begin to wake up, before you're even fully aware, you can feel the hunger unlike you've ever really understood before. As you begin to move about and open your eyes, the world is in a different bit of color and strangeness than what you're used to. Lots of gray, blank shapes, but then there's this one bright spot. Uh, its colors are changing and stuff, and something smells delicious. You look around a little bit, the bright spot of colors begins to shift even faster and is moving about the room quickly. But it smells so good. You roll off of the metal slab that you are on, ignoring the formless gray blobs that are around you, and you go to run after it as you tackle it to the ground and sink your teeth into it, tasting the warm metallic coppery stuff. It it is the best thing you have ever had, and it is for once in your life you will feel alive. And that is where we're going to start today with our character generation. Um, Today I am going to be building what I have been tentatively calling the abomination. The idea is that he is a nobody that was living a nobody life until he was accidentally exposed to some HMHVV in the little story that I was trying to tell there. Now that that has happened, his life is turned around. All of a sudden, he's not Joe wage slave that nobody cares about. He's got actual power and can gets this feeling of I'm somebody important and special now. Before I was a janitor. Now I am a force to be reckoned with. So we're gonna start with the basic things. One, I decided he was gonna be an orc because orcs are the most usual ones that are gonna be set for a low skill type job. They're gonna be the guys that are doing your maintenance, your uh, custodial engineering is the technical term. And due to the way things went out, he actually ends up a ghoul. That's unfortunate for him. Let me see if I can actually tweak this scene a little bit so that you guys can get the bottom of this. For this, I am actually using Hero Lab, which is a fantastic program. I will put the link to it in the description below. Um, no, this is still not quite right. That'll do. It does a lot of the character generation math and double checks you on rules and stuff as you go along. Highly recommended. It is a paid program, but when you have a group of people getting together to play, it will allow you uh, to split that cost fairly easily, and all of a sudden, it's like $4 a person. It's great. I can't recommend it enough. So getting into it, he's not exactly going to be either the most charismatic or intelligent people. The idea of being just a wage slave is you get somebody to come in and do the job. He's not even really going to be heavily augmented out at all. We're going higher attributes, we're going higher skills. Get the details of why those choices a little later. One thing that I'm not going to do, which usually happens, is typically when you're going to make an infected character, you are going to uh, make him magically active in some fashion because you're already getting the magic from the HMHVV infection. And I suppose I should actually talk about that a little bit. HMHVV is the human metahuman vampiric virus. It is a magical disease that infects people and then transforms them on a base level. The ghoul strain, which I am terrible about and don't actually know that much of the lore on, is something that anything can be turned into a ghoul. It forces a dietary requirement of metahuman flesh. It will render you blind and give you an allergy to sunlight. However, your other senses uh, are enhanced. You'll be able to smell and hear better than you normally can. You will be able to be a bit stronger or hardier, and certain other aspects of things will improve along the way. I like to think of it more as a an instinctual change rather than a was always good at this improving your skills change when I get into like his active skills. For example, he is suddenly going to become a lot better at unarmed combat because ghouls are predators. They're going to hunt people down as a bit of an uh, instinctual adaptation. So as you were transformed wholeheartedly, that kind of thing is going to come through. Um, Similarly, I'm going to go in here and give him a couple of other skills that are relevant. Um, we're going to give him perception because every runner really needs perception. And then we're going to start to give him a little bit of not quite normal skills to have. Uh, Etiquette being one. As a ghoul, he's not really going to be that socially active. However, his previous life working in the corporate field is going to kind of influence where he is nowadays with his new ghoul life. Some of these skills you will be obviously able to see as I'm kind of clicking through them and uh, selecting them. Hopefully, most of it makes a little bit of sense. Athletics group. So the idea being that he is a nobody that now, with his new ghoul aspects, he feels that he has now become superhuman. He is one of those people that is um, able to do some of the stuff that he was talking about in the trids and they talk about. So we're going to give him a couple of qualities to represent his, uh, say it, hands-on approach to how things are nowadays. Some of it is going to be reinforced from the I forget the words, instinctual nature of sticks. And for some reason, this is not going. Sorry, I'm trying a new way of doing this, and I'm having a small juggling problem with BS and Hero Lab, getting it to pop up the little nested videos, and then not the little nested windows, and then putting them away when I close the windows. Because like when I close this, it's still there unless I click the thing on OBS. So that'll be a struggle for me to work through, and hopefully I will remember to do it and get better at this as I go on. Um, Jumping back into it, as he was a more hands-on person to begin with, he was going to have a higher body and strength scores. They're going to hire orc. I will also apologize because my mic likes to turn off, and I don't really know how to fix that quite yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. I thought I had fixed it. I was wrong. So we got kind of our basic skills in our basic attributes in here ready to go. He has high strength and body from the physical aspect of his job, in addition to the infection bringing that out farther into expressing to fit his new predator nature. His agility got a boost somewhere in there. The willpower um, is, I guess the willpower actually probably isn't that fitting, so I'm going to knock that back down. It doesn't make a lot of sense for him to be super willful on uh, really much of anything. So we're going to boost his reaction up as part of the transformation. His physical reaction times like have gone up. His intuition in a similar situation, given as the like if you ever tried sneaking up on a cat, they just have a general high perception and intuition. Going in here, we're gonna click up some of his skills. We'll stick the athletics groups at 3 and the outdoors group at 2. The tracking and survival is going to come from some of from the time in the little story that I started off with and him becoming an actual runner. There are things that have taken place. I imagine he runs amok in the Red Barrens area and just feeding and doing as he will please, eventually running afoul of maybe the 162s as a ghoul gang, maybe running afoul of somebody else that is kind of there for you guys to fill in that part of things. Um, his perception is going to go up as part of the transformation, including a specialization. I'm going to go with smell, given as ghouls have the wonderful ability of enhanced senses, hearing, and smell, which allow them to smell all kinds of wonderful things. Uh, we're gonna go with sneaking because he spent a little bit of time hunting people and that kind of stuff, including a urban specialization because he has never been outside the urban area. Unarmed combat comes from a an instinctual hunter predator kind of thing. And then we have a little bit of skills here left over from his human days. We're going to go with a bit of a con. Um, throw a couple of points in here as he is probably used to shifting the blame for the job that he's doing onto somebody else. Chemistry with a little bit of analytical comes from being a janitor. He has an idea of what certain chemicals are, knows what they may smell like, be able to figure out what they are there to do. It's not going to be a super defining part of what he does on a Shadowrun team. However, it will be occasionally useful. Um, Similarly, with the industrial mechanic, he is familiar with that kind of stuff. I'm going to throw in a heating and air conditioning on there because he was doing maintenance and that kind of such thing. Etiquette, we're going to throw a corporate specialization on uh, because he, as we were talking about, is very much living the corporate life and has that kind of thing. Astral combat. Do I want to leave this on here or not? I'm actually gonna pull astral combat because that hardly ever comes up, and he can now being a ghoul is able to fight old nature critters pretty easily. So we're gonna throw those skill points into a sensing. Gonna give him an aura reading specialization because that is now how he gets most of his uh, information about people. He's going to sit there and he's going to stare at you and he's going to sense you because ghouls now being blind have to deal with the uh, auras to figure out who is who and what is what. I'm going to slide back over here to qualities. Pop this open, throw the sheet up, the little box up there. See if I can actually make it a little before it goes. There we go. I have a bit of an idea in mind on the things that he is going to have as far as qualities. I kind of really just want to go with lightning reflexes to represent uh, the sudden change in how he is able to interact with the world, and it'll also keep the flavor of him being unaugmented and still, while mechanically being functional as a effective street samurai or heavy hitter. Um, Other legitimately good choices are things like Adrenaline Surge, which is a fantastic quality for any physically or kinetically oriented character. Scrolling down here, things that might fit, uh, not necessarily like a college education, but maybe the technical school education if you want to go with a bunch of the relevant knowledge skills towards his janitorial and handyman-ish career. Um, Guts could be very fitting given as he now feels moderately invulnerable as he gets into more of the crazy things that ghouls can do. Uh, Definitely not human looking anymore. Jack of all trades could also fit with the being asked to do everything around the corporate place. Um, Lucky in with these priorities is not something I could recommend, but it would be fitting in that he survived it all. Um, Natural athlete would fit with the metamorphosis that he has gone with, and then how he has gone from there. Uh, Coming down a bit more out for yourself is incredibly appropriate. I'll see how many. Okay. Um, but is basically what it's going to be. Uh, he doesn't need anybody else. He now suddenly has all of this power and advantages that being a ghoul gives you. So he doesn't really need. He has the idea he doesn't really need the rest of the team. He's he's got this. Um, quick healer could be appropriate given the bonus that he has already gotten to his body and such from his transformation. Uh, School of Hard Knocks, depending upon how much you want to play into where he was before he got into the corporate area, is appropriate. Tough as nails can also be in there. Toughness, while I don't really like toughness a whole bunch, it is once again super appropriate. I'm going to stick with my original plan though of lightning reflexes because it is a quality that serves a very specific purpose that doesn't end up usually getting picked all that often. Um, then we're going to come down in here to the negatives. I already have uh, superhuman psychosis and combat monster because he is not exactly the subtle type anymore. Not that he really was before, but we're gonna roll through this a little bit more. I have 13 more points I can easily pick. Um, coming down here, something like distinctive style can work depending upon how tough on that your GM is. I don't like to give it out for a lot of things. You wouldn't be for reasons to take distinctive style and a ghoul because no, you're a ghoul, you get that for free. Insomnia can be appropriate given the way that his body has been changed. Some of that stuff could easily come through. Liar potentially. Scrolling. He could easily have a phobia or a prejudice based upon his previous life. I actually think I really like the prejudice idea. Um, and we're totally gonna pick Thrill Seeker because he has a I am indestructible kind of thing going on. Um, Quasimodo is actually something that never gets picked. I'm gonna go with that one because now he is totally ugly as sin as part of being shot and dying and then transforming. Um, even though he worked for a corp, they thought he was dead, and then he wakes up in the morgue, eats the mortician, and then runs. Um, the corp's not gonna follow up on that. They don't really care all that much. So as they thought he was dead, they're gonna flag his sin that he previously had. Um, there. The other aspect is you could do vendetta. He could blame the corp for, well, I wouldn't say blame, but he could just want revenge on the corp for not using him to his full perspective because he has this inflated sense of self-worth now with the transformation. Um, so at this point, we're a whole giant pile of points overspent, so I'm going to get rid of that. Um, I'm going to dump vendetta because I don't. It's got a lot of opportunity there, but at the same time, I don't want to. Uh, that is up to you if that's the area you want to go. Maybe he deep down inside wants to get revenge on Maria who shot him, or just spread the love of being a giant monster. And then I got one overspent. I guess I get rid of Thrill Seeker because you don't want to be the cheesy guy who takes superhuman psychosis. Uh, Thrill Seeker next. And then we're going to do an outspoken prejudice against normals, non-aug, magic, etc. These people are beneath him, and he is going to treat them like trash because he was once them, and now he has become so much more. He will have a bit of an idea on his thing as we get into over here. We're gonna give him English, easily make it any other uh, any other language you want, depending upon where your campaign is based. We're gonna come up here and some street knowledge of Seattle area. Then uh, street ox. Ghouls, while they do require the feasting of metahuman flesh, they do also have the ability to fairly sustain themselves off of medical waste. So there are definitely street dogs out there that would be able to feed him essentially. Uh, we're gonna come down here. We're gonna get court politics as an interest. Throw a couple of points into that. I'm gonna give that a specialization to corp of choice, so that this way, whichever corp you wanted him to work for, that is for you to choose. Um, we're gonna come down here and we're gonna go wage slave life, and then in a specialization we'll put maintenance because that is what he did. But he is also familiar with all other aspects of the wage slave life, how much it sucks. From here, let's go biology and throw a little tasty bits. He has learned in his little time as a ghoul as to what is his favorite parts of a person to eat. Um, from here, I'm going to leave the last 4 points unspent. Usually, whenever I do these, I leave a fair bit of options available for people to put their own flavor on it. Because in the link in the video down below, I will have a link to the Hero Lab save file and PDF so that you guys can rebuild these characters and use them for your own game. And I really look forward to hearing any stories that come up out of it. We're skipping augmentations for now, mostly because he is only a magic 1 pool at the moment. As we didn't pick up a magic priority to boost that, we don't really have the space to get things like Cyber Eyes and stuff. You will be able to raise it with Karma as you continue to play. You won't, unless your GM is super nice, be able to later on awaken to become like an adept or something. That is something you can talk about with your GM, but for the most part, he's going to ride the line of I'm going to spend 10 karma so that I can get 1 essence worth of um, augmentations to kind of boost them. As my mic drops out again, sorry guys, I really need to get that fixed. Um, so I wanted to come back and drop a natural weapons specialization on the unarmed combat for reinforcing uh, the natural slash instinctual aspect of things. So that's where that came from. Apparently, I also missed my cyber eyes and ghouls thing. So ghouls, their eyes go blind as part of the transformation. Most schools will end up getting cyber eyes some point in their life so that they can see. Imagine all of a sudden losing one of your senses and it being a pretty important one to how you get through your day. So at some point he will likely buy cyber eyes if for no other reason than the mechanics behind it. Unfortunately, as a magic one ghoul such as he is, you're going to need to invest a bit of karma to make that happen. Uh, if I didn't, if the awakening discussion got cut off, talk with your GM. You could maybe arrange a latent awakening as he, as his magic gets stronger, continuing on through your adventures. Maybe that is something you could happen. There's no 5th edition rules for it just yet. We'll see if they decide to bring that in. Um, but it'll be 10 karma, and then that'll let you get Cyber Eyes and maybe a couple of other augmentations. So we're gonna skip over that. We're gonna come into weapons. He doesn't really need a whole bunch of weapons. He is a very hands-on kind of guy. Um, so we're gonna skip over that secondarily because it kind of fits with the idea of him having the feeling that he doesn't need anything else. He suddenly has awakened to this power that he has to literally rend flesh from bone with his bare hands. So that's what he's kind of working on. Um, as he progresses through play, maybe he decides that, you know what, I'm going to start to carry a gun so that I can shoot that guy in the leg so he can't run away, and then I can rend him limb. I feel like that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to come in here into armor. I'm going to come down here. This is less things that he has bought, more things that he has probably scavenged from people he has murdered. As such, we're going to throw an armor jacket on there. We're going to trick it out a little bit because maybe he got it from some nice punk, that whole "that's a mighty fine coat you have." Put some electrochromatic on there. I don't really think it needs a whole bunch of this other stuff as far as that. We're gonna get a little crazy. I'm gonna get a SWAT helmet because he's probably killed a police officer or two, and they are actually. Which one is 10? That one's way more expensive. Uh, as this was a SWAT helmet, let's see what happens with this. We're actually going to trick out the helmet a bit because it was taken off of a police officer. As such, it is better than what you're just going to get kind of around. Single sensor, we're going to make this a ultrasound sensor because most people use those to defeat invisible things. He doesn't need to, being dual natured, but he didn't trick this out himself. We're going to throw some audio enhancement in there. My cat is going to come over and say hello, and I'm going to push him away. Micro transceiver for communications, and I guess we can go to smart link, even though it won't do him any actual good. Then we're gonna. Oh wow, I whoops that. Smart link boosts the availability up. What else boosts the availability? Yeah. All right. So let me rethink on that. Forgetting that those things boost the availability was a pretty unique mistake. Go back in here and find some other things don't. Let's put a select sound filter in there. Still good? No, it's not good. Alright, screw it. Not gonna mess with the minutia of this stuff. Which is something else I don't like to do in these situations because messing with all of the specific details is gonna get a little tedious. Shadowrun is a bit gear heavy in certain things. So other armor options, I probably just gonna grab some forearm guards. Once again, totally ripped off somebody he murdered. I'll use the search function because it's way easier that way. And just a quick tweak is to have bot monitor. And an auto injector in them, even though at the moment I haven't put chemicals in them, but they do exist. PPP kits. The PPP kits were probably also ripped from the dying hands of the poor man that he murdered. That's going to bring him up to a nice solid 28 armor, and he still has room to go if you want to get crazy. You could, for example, tweak his things, and maybe he has a riot shield that he got most likely off of the dude he got the SWAT helmet from. So we're going to throw that on there. And then a quick turning off of that. No. That would put him at 32 soak so that he can hide behind the shield and get closer to people and then rend them limb from limb. Coming over here into the Matrix, he has probably swiped more than his share of comlinks because he never got to afford a nice comlink when he was a wage slave. So he's going to keep the ones and not have to worry about certain things like ownership because the owner is now being digested. Sorry, bro, but that's how it is. Same thing with his car. We're going to go with a Nissan Jackrabbit for now. We can maybe get him a nicer car later. You know, sorry, this is my car now. Coming through some of the gear, I'm not going to make most of those purchases here. I usually will save 20-ish grand when I make these videos to buy things like med kits, fake sins, pay for lifestyles, that kind of thing. And that is probably really boring for you people to watch, so I'm not gonna do it. I will come over here to his contacts. He's gonna have a couple. I think we're just gonna get two in here, which is then gonna putting him over on Karma. Which I guess instead of lightning reflexes, I'll click on adrenaline surge because that's another pretty insane ability, and will give us some more karma to play through our contacts. Uh, Dependent upon how he got from the corporate into the pseudo feral murder monster into the shadows is going to be kind of up to you. The 162s are a ghoul gang. Um, it is easily conceivable that they heard about a section of Redmond or wherever it is that you are located about a lot of ghoul attacks, and maybe they found him when they went to investigate that because they don't want the negative press to come down on ghouls because people know that the 162s are a ghoul gang. And the more bad press that ghouls make, the more bad things they have to deal with when people break out their pitches and or bleh, pitches. God damn it, cat. Torches and pitchforks is what I was trying to say, and failing horribly at it. So they're gonna have a 162 ganger, and we're gonna call him Chomper because jokes. He's gonna have a street dock, and this is probably somebody of the 162s have introduced him to as, all right, we're not gonna want you murdering a whole bunch of people. We're gonna set you up with this guy who, when you want a burger, you can come to and you can get a burger. It won't actually be a burger, but he'll have a smoothie machine and a slab of meat on other slabs of meat. Totally. No. I like to name up stitches for him, and that'll be that. At the moment, we have 30 grand left laying around. We could get him a nicer car. We could get him a nicer comlink. Maybe he did actually steal a really nice one. Um, his miscellaneous gear, things like trodes or data taps or data chips, that kind of thing that he doesn't really have access to being a ghoul. And being blind, we'll just, tag eraser and some data chips, stealth tags. This is all kind of um, things that I recommend most Shadowrunners get, as it is a bit of an operational necessity. Some of this can easily be stuff that was looted, or maybe stuff that he actually, once meeting the 162s, has purchased. So the let's call it the nicer technological things is probably things that he had looted from his previous victims and not gotten around to. But stuff like these metal restraints that I'm throwing on there, and these plastic restraints probably came from whichever cop he killed and then ate and got that SWAT helmet and riot shield from. Some of this other stuff down here is not really in the what he would be carrying. Maybe some drugs. Drugs are great, and everybody loves drugs. So we'll throw a couple of doses of cram on there. Maybe got the gangers, maybe from some drug addict that he ate. Maybe he likes to use them as seasoning. So, you know, that could be unfortunate. I imagine they do have some influence on how things taste, but yeah, it's all in how you use it. Um, and then he would also have some knowledge of things like from his maintenance days, the uh, some lube, some glue, and then what else we got here? That's universal sealing. That tech. It's a little fancy. Uh, but that's boring to scroll through. The the rest of it is going to be on you guys to see where you want to go from there. He's obviously a heavy, but he has a little bit more stuff through his active skills between the chemistry, the etiquette, and the industrial mechanic. It throws back to that maintenance man lifestyle that he previously had, at the same time as being something that could very easily be useful on a run. His um, ability to smell different things through the uh, the enhanced senses he gets from being a ghoul is also useful. He could smell, you know, the different scents of dogs, tailored pheromones. You can actually track people in that fashion. His knowledge skills leaves a more interesting aspect of things. You can easily throw in a security procedures with a corporate specialization to represent where he was. Um, you could throw in some additional languages, augments we talked about with the having to spend karma. When he gets a little bit of karma, maybe he wants to get in the habit of bashing people with his riot shield. You can pick up the exotic weapon proficiency for that. The uh, the armor, maybe after working with some people, they want him to get something that's chem sealed because they don't want to risk the infection. A nicer comlink, probably after he gets some cyber eyes or some cyberware to protect him. He's not going to get too high on cyber. He's already rolling 11 and 2d6 um, for initiative, with the adrenaline surge making him go first. He's going to get in there and do stuff. When he grows a little bit into grabbing some kind of ranged advantage, he will be able to go first and have a shot at some people and then close the distance. Or more likely, he's going to be an ambush predator because that's how ghouls work. Um, there is options here because the 162s being all ghouls aren't exactly going to um, outside him. They're not going to treat him as an outsider, and that may be where he begins to get shadow work because maybe his first run was with some of the gangers that were trying to do something, and he had that extra more wage slave knowledge. He probably had a low to medium lifestyle that was provided by the corporation to work there in corporate housing. And as they talk about that with the gang, they think, oh well, maybe he has some knowledge that we can use to do whatever illegal activity we're attempting to do. And that's where they start to get him more into the shadow aspect of things, eventually setting him up with a proper fixer, which brings him to a team that is willing to uh, accept his more predatory natures and habits. Most likely won't be bringing him for the actual meats and stuff, but it'll be that kind of thing where I call him up, hey, we got a job, we need your help, come on. And then he's going to drive his crappy Nissan Jackrabbit around. You know, he's kind of a cool. He, I don't know if he really has a street name that would be appropriate without being somewhat comical. So I'm going to leave that off for now, and you guys can come up with that kind of on your own. Um, at current, he has 5 karma he can still spend, 4 knowledge points he can still spend. Uh, as I double check how much money. 30 grand to still spend, which you could also easily make arguments to switch his resources in Magic and click the add button, which will get him uh, Magic 2 power points that you can use to fill out in whatever fashion you're really interested in, depending upon where you want to take him. Um, or you can let the GM kind of decide that stuff. It'll cost you because then we have to give up some of the like we'll have to give up the car, but being able to move around covertly is pretty important when you're a walking biohazard. Um, but that is it for now, guys. I want to thank you for coming by and checking this out. If you want, in the video description below, there will be links to his Hero Lab save file and the PDF of him so that you can recreate him. I will also make a list of the resources that he has available if you want to tweak him to your settings. I will off camera go in and add some fake sins and some more of the other random gear and finish him out so he is air quotes completed. But uh, let me know how he does. I'm curious to see and hear if you do use him as an NPC, as a have him jump in for just a run to help out with a run for whatever random reason. I'm curious to see where his story goes, and he will be available for my next games for GMs as a potential choice. Thank you, and that normal YouTube stuff that people always ask.